everybody, Gary here with Guitar Tricks, and in this video we're going to go over how to play these awesome 9th chords over a slow blues, and we're going to talk about that cool slide thing. And then we're going to put it all together to play a blues progression. Before we get into the lesson, please help us out by clicking subscribe, and if you like this video, click that like button and leave a comment. Let us know what you thought of this video and any other future tutorials that you'd like to see. So usually with the blues, with a basic blues, we play dominant 7 chords. So if we look at, let's say, as if we're in the key of A, we got an A blues. The chords would be A7, E7, and D7. And what we have with those chords is a root, a third, a fifth, and a flat 7. That's the recipe for a dominant 7 chord. Root, major third, perfect fifth, minor 7th. And now if we keep going, root, skip over 2, third, skip over 4, 7th. If we go one more, if we go from the 7th and we skip the next note, which would be the root, that would bring us to what we call the 9th. Now the 9th is synonymous with the 2nd. The 9th is the 2nd scale degree, but in the language of chords, where we keep building by skipping a note and skipping a note, we have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, which is the same as 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6. So 2 is 9, 4 is 11, 6 is 13. To get into like the why would take too long. Just know that 9 is 2, all right? And we don't say 2 in a chord unless there's no third in that chord. When there's no third, then we might refer to something like a sus2 or a sus4. But when there's a third and a 7th, then when we add the 9th, it becomes a 9th chord. So the recipe there is root, third, fifth, flat 7th, and 9th. And when we put that all together, here's a couple ways to play it. If we start on the root, we've got second finger on the root. We've got our third finger, our ring finger on the 7th, which we skip the A string, go on the same fret, 5th fret on the D string. We take our index finger, go 4th fret on the G string. That's the 9th. And then we put our pinky on the 5th fret of the B string. And that's our 5th. Now, we could also add this note on the A string, the 3rd, and we could do a kind of bar of sorts like this. It's a little awkward, so a lot of times if there's a bass player, if you're at a jam session, just leave out the root, and then you can just play this chord. Now this chord, just for your information, has another name. It's also called a C sharp minor 7 flat 5. So if you ever were looking how to play a minor 7 flat 5, which is also synonymous with a C sharp half diminished chord, it would look like that, but really we're thinking that A is the root note. So we've got major third, flat 7, 9th, 5th. So that's if there's a bass player. If I'm going to play it solo like I did in the intro, I might just leave out the third, and then it kind of becomes a sus chord. Or I might try to bar it. Now another way to play it with a low E string root is if we just think of this kind of E-shaped bar chord. And we lift up our pinky, then what we have is an A7. Root, 5th, flat 7, major third, 5th, root. Now, we don't need this root at the top. We could add the 9th at the top like this. So that's another way to play an A9 chord. So we've got this one, we've got this, and we've got... Cool, right? So then, the 4 and the 5 chord, we're going to play D7 and E7 with an A string root. So D7's our 4 chord, and we're going to play that like this. Root on the 5th fret of the A string with our middle finger, major third on the 4th fret of the D string with our index finger, and then we can take our ring finger and pinky and put them on the 5th fret of the G and the B string. Like that. So it's just a 2-fret span right there. Now that's one way to play it. Another way to play it is to try to bar the 5th fret top 3 strings and then put that index finger. So I'm going to bar that with my ring finger on the 5th fret. I'm going to put my index finger on the 4th fret of the D string, and I'm going to put my middle finger on the root, which is on the 5th fret of the A string. And you just got to kind of tilt your wrist out to get all those notes to ring out. And then again, if there's a bass player, you can leave out the root and just play it like this, which is much easier. Okay, and then for the 5 chords, same thing. And then or. Okay, so now once we have that in order, we just want to be able to play the blues progression, right? So we'll play the most simple version. We'll go 4 bars of the 1 chord, 2 bars of the 4, 2 bars of the 1, 1 bar of the 5, 1 bar of the 4, 2 bars of the 1. So that would be like this with a little metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it, right? Okay, now let's add that cool slide thing. And let's do that with our ring finger on that flat 7 on the 5th fret of the D string, and our pinky on that 5th on the 5th fret of the B string. And we just play the note, slide forward, slide back. Now there's a few different ways. If you're playing with a pick, you can pick the lower note with your pick and then use your middle finger to kind of pluck up on the higher note pitch-wise, like that. So if you were strumming, right, because we're not doing that note, we're just doing these two. So finger style, I'm just kind of using index and ring finger, you know. And I'm sliding my whole hand. We could either pluck it once or twice. Both kind of sound good. Right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2. Cool. Then we get to the 4 chord, D. And if I'm barring it, I just use the bar to slide. And again, I could do the hybrid technique, which is pick and ring finger, or I could finger pick it. Now, if you're playing the chord like this without a bar, just sneak your pinky down when you're ready to do the riff. Now you could just do this sometimes, you know, it's a nice little tasty thing. You don't necessarily have to do it every time. Then when we get to the E, same thing. Now you could do the top 3 notes. You don't have to just do those 2. Just doing the 2 is a little softer sounding. Like here I'm going to do all 3. Right? So, you know, you could do either or. Okay, so now I'm going to put together the whole progression with the chord and the slides. And the slides are on 2 ends. So if I go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and... Cool. So we're going to do the same thing. 1 chord, A9 for 4 measures. 4 chord, D9 for 2 measures. Back to the 1 chord, A9 for 2 measures. 5 chord, E9 for 1 measure. D9, 4 chord for 1 measure, and then A9 for 2 measures to close it out. I'm not going to do it every time necessarily, but I'm going to do it most of the time. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you might have saw also what I did there. Sometimes you could just slide in the whole chord, you know, and then kind of walk down from 1 chord to the next. All those things kind of give it more life than just chunking out the chord. You know. All right, everybody. I hope that lesson was helpful. If you want to learn more about playing guitar, take a whole course on the blues that includes stuff like this and so much more, head over to guitartricks.com. Happy playing, and I'll see you in the next lesson.